Hey guys, Jack on Wrist here, back with another video, and in today's video, I want to compare watch brands to car brands. Now the reason for doing this is, number one, because I think it would be a really interesting exercise, but number two, I think there are a lot of similarities between watches and cars, and I've seen a lot of people in my comments recently making car to watch analogies and comparisons, so I wanted to give my own take on that. So without further ado, I'm going to break down 7 watch brands and make the case for their car brand comparisons. So the first brand up is going to be Seiko, and in my opinion, the best comparison is going to be Toyota. So I think the low-hanging fruit here is that both of these brands, both Seiko and Toyota, are from Japan, and I think that's the first easy thing to make the comparison. But I think the second thing is just kind of talking about the price points of both the brands and their reliability. Both Seiko and Toyota have a great reputation, especially for being super reliable, long-lasting, both cars and watches, and I think they're both relatively affordable for what they are. Most Seiko watches are going to be about under $1,000, a lot of times maybe even under $500, which is a pretty affordable price point. And also a lot of Toyotas are going to be around the $20,000 to $25,000 range, which yes is a lot of money, but for a car isn't necessarily breaking the bank. To bring up an actual example, something like the 2021 Toyota Corolla is about a $20,000 new car. Again, a pretty affordable price point for a new car that's going to be really great and last you a long time and be super reliable. And also when you take a look at Seiko, I mean, you can get a lot of Seikos, whether it's a Seiko 5 for under $100 or all the way up to something like an SKX or whatever for under $500, and they're going to last you a long time. They're going to look great. They're going to be reliable. And honestly, I really see a lot of similarities between these two different brands. Another thing to mention is that both Seiko and Toyota do things outside of their standard affordable price point range, whether it be the Toyota Supra costing over $43,000, which is definitely more than you'd pay for most Toyotas, or with Seiko, with some of their Presage models and Marine Masters, they're going to cost you well over $1,000. So I think it's really interesting to just add to the layer of the comparison here. The next brand up is a pretty easy one. It's going to be Grand Seiko, comparing it to Lexus. So as many of you know, Seiko owns Grand Seiko, which is Seiko's sort of a luxury alternative, and Toyota actually owns Lexus, which again is sort of their luxury alternative. Both Grand Seiko and Lexus stay true to what Toyota and Seiko are, which are very reliable models that are built really well, but they have a lot of different features that aren't found in these standard Toyota and Seiko models. With Grand Seiko, you're going to get better finishing, more intricate dials, and different movement choices. In a Lexus, you're going to get a better interior, more features, and probably better technology. But again, they both stay true to what their brands are, which are reliable and, again, generally affordable for that luxury price point. I have to say that of all the different watch to car brand comparisons I'm going to give you today, I think that Seiko and Grand Seiko compared to Toyota and Lexus is the strongest. But of course, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So the next brand up is going to be Rolex, and we're going to be comparing Rolex to Mercedes. And I think this has a lot to do with price point and general perception. Yes, a Rolex is an expensive watch, but it is not unobtainable, especially as a sort of life goal. Also with something like a Mercedes, it is expensive. It's by no means affordable, but nothing crazy that you can never achieve if you really want it. For example, you can go and buy something like a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 for maybe about $6,000 or so. And again, that's a lot of money, but nothing ridiculous that you can't get over the course of a period of time. And again, with something like a Mercedes, you're gonna have to pay $50, $60, maybe even $70,000 for a Mercedes if you're buying it new, of course. But I don't think that's really crazy ridiculous, especially when you compare it to the other cars out there and, for Rolex compared to the other brands out there that I'll be mentioning in a little bit. And so I think that really just in terms of the price point and the market, they have a lot of similarities. Both Rolex and Mercedes are both really great brands with amazing histories that are very innovative. So in my opinion, that's another reason why this is a great comparison. And to talk about perception really quickly, I think a lot of people on the outside of watches see Rolex as the ultimate brand, the pinnacle of watchmaking. But once you get into the hobby, you realize that isn't necessarily the case. Just like how when you don't really know much about cars, you may think Mercedes is the best because you know the brand and you know it's nice. But once you learn about cars, you know it's not necessarily the ultimate car brand. I think these brands especially carry a super heavy perception with the public, especially those people who don't really know as much about them. And so I think that's another reason why this is a great comparison. The next comparison is going to be the brand Omega to BMW. The reason for this comparison has a lot to do with price and perception, similar to Rolex and Mercedes. I think that Omega is really seen as the little brother to Rolex, just like how a lot of people see BMW as the little brother to Mercedes a lot of times. But regardless of what anyone thinks and comparing them to the other brands, I think they're obviously super well made, both Omega and BMW, and they're obviously both fairly pricey. Just like how Rolex and Mercedes are in the luxury space, so is Omega, and so is BMW. And just like how a Rolex is going to cost you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, probably even more, the same can be said about Omega. And also just like how you can get a Mercedes for about $50,000 to $70,000, the same can be said about BMW. Just price point wise, relative to where they are in the watch and car market respectively, I think that Omega and BMW are very similar. The next brand up is Patek Philippe, and their car brand comparison is going to be Ferrari. Now this has a lot to do with design and also price point. Now starting off with price really quickly, obviously a Patek Philippe watch is going to cost you miles more than what it's going to cost you for something like a Rolex or an Omega. And similar to a Ferrari, it's going to be way more than it's going to cost you for something like a Mercedes or BMW. Yes, Mercedes and BMW, as well as Rolex and Omega, are luxury brands, but this is a whole different category. In terms of design, Patek Philippe doesn't really take too many chances. They're a very contemporary and classic brand. Think about something like the Nautilus or the Calatrava. They're going to make designs that are very classy and not really pushing the boundaries a whole lot. And I think you can see a lot of Patek Philippe's design philosophy in Ferrari. When you see a Ferrari, you know it's a Ferrari, whether it's their distinct features or the red color, you know what it is. And same with Patek Philippe. They're not going to be changing it up too much. You know what it is. They're not going to be taking too many chances. And again, I just don't think something like Ferrari really takes the same chances that other car brands do. But they don't really have to take those chances. They know their cars are going to be classic, they're going to be beautiful, they're going to sell. And same with Patek Philippe. They're not going to do anything that doesn't look like a Patek Philippe. They know whatever they make is going to be super high quality and look beautiful, and it's going to sell. And take a look at something like the Ferrari California as an example. It's a Ferrari. You're not going to do a double take and wonder what it is. Whether it's the red color or the badging or the looks or the taillights, whatever, you know it's a Ferrari, and they're not taking too many chances here. Now the next brand up is Audemars Piguet, and my comparison would have to be Lamborghini. Now the main reason for this is again price point, as I've been mentioning a lot here, but also design similar to Ferrari and Patek Philippe. Audemars Piguet is a brand that in my opinion does things that are just different than Patek Philippe. They do bigger watches, bolder watches, they take more chances. And I think when you look at a brand like Lamborghini, they also take similar chances. Lamborghinis take chances, they do things that you would not expect in a car, especially something like the Lamborghini doors. That's what they're most known for, and that is something that is not typical on really any car. Audemars Piguet recently also is taking a lot of chances. They're doing a lot of skeleton watches, a lot of different materials. They're doing really big, bold watches. But again, all of them still look like an Audemars Piguet, whether it's the Royal Oak or offshore look. You know what it is, obviously. You're not doing a double take there and wondering what brand is that. But they are taking some big chances, just like Lamborghini. You know it's a Lamborghini when you see it probably, but they are doing things that are very different. And again, price point wise, I bring this up for most brands here, but Lamborghini is way more expensive than most luxury brands, just like Audemars Piguet is, and I think that sort of price comparison also makes a lot of sense. Now the final comparison here is going to be Timex, and their comparison for me is Ford. Now in my opinion, this comes down to brand identity and origin as well as price point. Now talking about the price point really quickly, obviously Timex is a more affordable brand and Ford is a more affordable car brand as well. They were both obviously founded in the United States, which is something both of them are very proud of, and I think it's personally really cool, and there's that easy link there too. But also in terms of design, I think Timex and Ford have a lot in common as well. I mean, recently Timex has really been digging into their heritage, making models like the Timex Q and the Marlin that really celebrate their history and go back to some of their classic designs. And with Ford and something like the Ford Mustang specifically, they're really going back and looking at their history and trying to put a lot of those historical elements into their current lineup. I myself own a 2007 Ford Mustang convertible, and I can tell you firsthand that they really try to make the Mustang, specifically in this case, a car that really ties to their history super well. Even with something like the Ford GT, which is obviously a super high-priced model, they know how significant the Ford GT is to their legacy, and they wanted to recreate it. Just like Timex recreating the Marlin or recreating some of these Q models, they know how significant these models are to their history, and they want to recreate them. So those were 7 watch to car brand comparisons. Let me know in the comment section down below how I did. You think I did a really bad job? Do you have better comparisons? Leave them in the comment section down below. And also leave new comparisons that I did not mention in this video. Obviously, I left out a lot of different car and watch brands, so leave those in the comment section down below. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and leave your comments in the comment section down below. And please subscribe if you want to see more watch content. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.